What is going on? It's Alex coming back at you with another video, and today we're going to be doing day 2, that's rounds 2 and 3 of this 2025 NFL mock draft with trades. If you are new, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. We're going to be going over round 1, but experience it in live time then, because it's a lot more fun when you do it that way than just come back to this video. Appreciate the double ad revenue too. But let's get into this. This show's been growing at a great rate. Thank you guys so much for that. On the road to 16K and hopefully dream goal 20 by draft time, but we'll see what's up with that. Doing stuff like this just makes my life so much better. I'm just going to be completely real with y'all and take a quick tangent. Like, outside of this, seems all hunky-dory. We all kind of know that we all deal with stuff behind the scenes. And, like, honestly, today's not a very good day. But, doing content and being able to, like, distract myself by being able to have a good time while, actually, like, responding to your guys' comments, it does help out a lot. So, for you guys who do comment every day, from the bottom of my heart, I really do appreciate y'all. And I know that day 2s don't do as well, so that's why I'm taking a little bit of your time to do that. But that's where the true OGs end up staying around. So I do appreciate you guys for that. It does not go unnoticed and does make a good difference. But we'll only be talking about the trades primarily because, again, you can go rewatch round 1 or use your eyeballs if you are not listening to this rather than, watching it. So feel free, if you guys are using the audio version, to go take a peek. But we'll be discussing the trades here, which we had a clean slate of 1 to 11. And at number 12, we had Dallas making a blockbuster trade with the Broncos. And they ended up trading up for Tyler Warren for the price of 2/3, one this year and one next. I thought it was a good deal for Dallas because I just did not like the value for them at this pick. And then also for the Broncos, I was not going to be leaving a second round pick to the Dallas Cowboys. I think it's a perfect opportunity for Dallas, who have a couple more pieces, in my opinion, that could be leveraged at that point. Like, with the proper value of Tyler Warren at this spot, I would give up Tyler Warren and a third round pick and a third next year any day. I'd rather have Tyler Warren than, Nick Eamon-Warry or even Amari and Hampton, who I have higher than Tyler Warren. But for this specific team, I'd rather have Tyler Warren than those players and the multiple third round picks, because I really do see the value with Sean Payton. But continuing on, we had a trade up with Atlanta. Jalen Walker, the pure amazing linebacker who also is an edge hybrid. I just love the idea of him there in Mike McDonald's defense. I just think it's incredible. And the ability to use him as an edge rusher and as a linebacker, and the fact that he's really good as a linebacker, provides such a solid base, such a solid floor. And you do look at, whether it is going to be Zach Vaughn or Nolan Smith. Technically, both, when you combine them, could essentially be Jalen Walker's role, especially on this defense. I could see someone like Gannon absolutely falling in love with that. So you deploy, you end up sending 138 and 183 or something like that. 2 day 3 picks, which the Falcons are in desperate need of. And you guys end up moving up and selecting a guy and choosing which player you're going to face on the Cardinals, while also giving yourself an amazing player there in Jalen Walker. Of course, since we had a small trade down to 18 with Atlanta, I decided to get a little cute with it and say, well, if I'm the Buccaneers, my dream pick is Jahad Campbell, and I know that's going to be somebody where I'm talking about in division again. Very rarely do I see that in-division teams are very neck and neck. And so I do think that there's prime opportunities for small jump ups to be able to select guys that you're worried about your in-division rival taking and would benefit your team. So with Atlanta sitting there, I didn't feel like the value was right, and there were a lot of good offensive linemen falling. I ended up having the Chargers trade up and jumping the Bengals, who is a playoff rival, for the top tier player in Will Campbell, who has that tackle versatility in case of injury, and then leaving Tyler Booker going to the Bengals. Matt Golden ends up staying in Texas, going from Houston to Austin to Dallas at number 20. Then via all those 2 trade backs, we had the Falcons sticking and selecting Mike Green. If you guys want to know whether my sources of that information are legit for off-field concerns, I mean, I did not get it from Brett Coleman, but maybe we have a similar source. There's a reason he ended up saying he was happy to see that Mike Green was invited to the Combine, because if everything on the field was an indicator of him being it's pretty obvious he should have went to the Combine, there's something off the field. And I'm not going to say it. It was in my 2-round mock draft that I ended up talking about it. I'm not going to confirm it, but I'll say that my sources have been very reliable, and things are starting to check out, and maybe we have some similar sources. Hopefully they're correct. And I mean, hopefully they're wrong, because the thing is, it was really shitty if it's true. but it kind of all lines up and it all adds up. So I'm a little bit worried about that. Josh Connerly was traded up for. Green Bay ended up moving back a little bit because I saw these tackles falling. I love the idea of the Ravens or the Browns moving up. I had them both move up for offensive tackles because we saw a quick run of them go right here. The Texans ended up taking advantage of taking a quality interior offensive lineman that could be a Tunsil replacement in 2 years. Of course, via that trade back, you got Shamar Stewart going to the Packers. I mean, he's done such a good job over the offseason. People who want to say that he was good during the regular season, no disrespect, but it's clear you didn't watch the whole edge class or the whole defensive interior class, because Shamar Stewart did get 1.5 sacks. I'm not a sack watcher. I don't really give that big of a crap about it, but you got to do, like, what are you doing? You got to get more than 1.5 sacks when you're on a super loaded defensive line. It's not like somebody else had like 18 sacks and it was overtaking it. Like, no. So there are legit concerns, but I do think that he performed noticeably better over the offseason through the Mobile All-Star circuit. And I love seeing that progression. And that usually is what turns a guy from someone I'm a little bit more pessimistic about to someone who I'm very optimistic about. But then we, of course, had a trade up here. Washington, in the desire to get more picks, ended up trading with the Saints and allowing Kellen Moore to get his top-tier tight end here in Colston Loveland. And then, of course, via that trade back with the Browns, because with the Browns, we ended up trading with Philadelphia for Myles Garrett. They ended up selecting Amari Hampton, and now we're here. A billion minutes in, but we're here. So at 33, I want to do one quick trade because I think this is going to be paramount. You need a quarterback, and we're going to get one that's on a cheap contract. We still have a ton of selections, but I think this is going to be great for New England to be able to talk with Cleveland and be like, hello. Like, what do you want? I want to be able to get Joe Milton. And the question is, what's the value of said Joe Milton? And I think it would be probably like in between 144 and 102. So like that's where I'm like a little bit like my concern is, do I want to go, do I do a 67 to 77 and then toss in Joe Milton? I think that's going to be probably worth about like a pick 120 to 140, like about this right here. Like, I feel like that is pretty acceptable. And so I think tossing in Joe Milton into that equation, moving back only 10 spots, that's a good idea. And your OC has had success with Jalen Milroe before. And that's something I think like 102, you guys can kind of finesse your way with that. But being able to move back 10 spots, I don't mind it. And I mean, again, if you really want to get butthurt about it, toss 222 for 257. Who gives a shit? It's not going to affect the mock draft. So I just want to get that out of the way off the bat. The New England Patriots move up as well. And now we're sitting at pick number 33 with the Cleveland Browns. And we have selected Travis Hunter and Kelvin Banks. We need to go after an edge rusher again. Myles Garrett was traded in this situation, and it's perfect. You're going after someone who has a great frame, 270, who has a ton of experience, who has gotten better every single year. And in, I think it was 2022 or 2021, he ended up having that insane game versus Penn State. Am I somebody who will be lingering on that fact? No. However, I think JT Tuimoloau is so much better than the statistics say. I was a JT Tuimoloau hater. So take it from me, a legit hater of Tuimoloau, that I genuinely believe that you guys would be doing the best service for your team by taking him at this point over every other edge rusher that's on the board. I think he's better than Jack Sawyer in pretty much every aspect except leadership, because I think Jack's going to be a great leader in the locker room, but not saying that JT won't. I'm just saying Jack Sawyer, that's a dude you want to build your defense around in terms of that charisma and that energy. At number 34 for the New York Giants, who went Cam Ward in the first. And a lot of really good players here. I mean, like, it is crazy. The draft will always have really good players falling. Just remember that every time. Like, good players fall. I honestly would debate moving back here because I'm looking at Membu, and I think that especially a team like the Titans, they need to be on board with being able to get someone like Membu at this point. I think that would be a really, really good get. But there are also teams that I think should be trying to get an offensive tackle, whether that would be New England, who just added a little bit extra value, right? Or whether that is, Chicago, we ended up going after offensive linemen round 1, to be fair. So if Chicago did not do that, then that's something I would look at. Technically, Washington, we just added 2 extra picks. Could they end up trying to move up? Not going to do it in division, but again, talking about move up targets going forward. The Jets got their QB, might want to get their right tackle here with Membu, but The team I really love the idea of moving up, and I think they absolutely should, is the 49ers. They have multiple contracts that will be coming up that are pricey, and I just don't really love the value here for the Giants. So we're going to be moving up with the Niners. And so, I mean, for 34 to 43, I have the pick chart, pick thing over here, like the chart, the pick value chart. There we go, English. It is a 470 for San Francisco and a 560 for New York, which is a 90 differential, which is about pick number 102. And given that, I don't think that's that big of a deal. I personally think 111 would be perfectly fine in my book. Again, 111 would end up being 72 points. Technically, this should be pick 112 based on the chart right now, which is 70, which, to be fair, I will say a little bit on the lighter side. And I do see a big gap from 155 to 221. I'm going to toss in 187 just to be nice. So we're going to move up there with the Niners. And we took Walter Nolan round 1. I think my dream tackle here would be Ozzie Trapilo, but I do think Armand Membu would be the more realistic target. And you can't go wrong with either because they're probably going to be the next 2 picks. So if you don't want Membu and you want Trapilo, which based on my board you would, then by all means. But Armand Membu is a great player. The Titans went Abdul Carter at number 1 overall. I absolutely could see them trying to move out of this spot, but that right tackle spot needs help like no one's business. I don't care what quarterback is going to be there. And I don't trust the value of the tackles. Like, you can talk about Anthony Belton, but I mean, would I want to trade down and give up the higher floor Ozzie Trapilo for it? I don't think so. So this is like one of the safest tackles in this draft, in my opinion. I don't know why Ozzie's not getting enough love, but I really do think he is a first-round level tackle. And, you know, he said, well, like, you guys get to prosper off of Abdul Carter and Ozzie Trapilo building through the trenches at number 35. At number 36, Jacksonville Jaguars ended up going after Tetro McMillan in round 1. Look at who's available here in round 2. I got hiccups. I honestly love the corner group right now. Like, look at this shit. Azarie, Porter, Revel, Amos, even Barron. Barron is not a schematic fit. The problem with Barron is that he's an off-zone, suboptimal build corner. Very smart. Good ball skills. But it's just the type of player that I think does fall. Because teams probably don't want someone who's sub 6 foot. I don't want somebody who is going to be primarily experienced in off-zone coverage. And, like, look at the difference. I'm not going to say PFF is the end-all, be-all, but so, like, someone who I know who works with guys at PFF kind of say that their grading system has almost 3 tiers, and it's like a guaranteed good, guaranteed bad, and then kind of something that is very fluctuation in the middle that is less reliable. And it's like if you are 80 plus in something, you're probably going to be good. Like, there's a high chance. 90 plus, guaranteed, like, you're doing a really damn good job. Then it's like 30 or lower, you know they're not doing a good job. But from 30 all the way up to 80, there is a solid chance that there is almost, it's like a dart throw whether it's actually accurate or not. And so when you're looking at 68.8, noticeably worse. But the thing is, he's built to be an amazing off-zone coverage zone corner. Like, he's built very well. But when you look at the Jaguars, you look at the style of corner that they're trying to build around, which is Tyson Campbell, that has nothing to do with Jahdae Barron. Nothing to do with him. It's Darian Porter, Trey Amos, Azarie Thomas. And you can't go wrong with any of them. And so it's, to me, down to Thomas and Amos because SEC production and then also right down the road. No disrespect to Darian Porter. You guys know how much I love him. But Azarie Thomas, I think because he played in Florida and because he has taken such a big step up. I mean, 141 yards total. I think it was 70 in single coverage. Like, this dude all year has been phenomenal. Got to see him in person. Ended up struggling a little bit at the Senior Bowl and ended up rebounding, which is super duper key, which means he takes coaching and does it well. I'm going to take a shot on Azarie Thomas all day at 36. At 37 for the Las Vegas Raiders, end up going Will Johnson in the first. Look at all these great players here. Unbelievable value. I am trading back. Like, it's too good. It's too good not to trade back, right? And right now, I'm debating how much of a dick I want to be to the Patriots because Ursery's here and it is by far the best tackle available. I don't, because Sawyer and Williams are here, I think there will still be a ton of demand ahead of the Bears, and the Bears are going to be like happy getting one of them. I'm actually going to be a little bit sneaky here. I'm going to say, hey, the Raiders are calling, and they're calling up some teams like, hey, Jets, do you want to tackle? Yeah, we want to tackle. And, you know, Ursery actually proved he could do some right tackle stuff. Would you guys be willing to trade up? Well, you know, maybe we'll toss in a 4th round pick. Okay, cool. And then you end up calling up a couple other teams. I mean, let's see, technically the Cardinals, but I'm trying to see a team that might be looking for a left tackle. It is a little bit barren as the round goes on from teams that are looking for true left tackles, but teams that might be looking at guard to tackle, the Dolphins. Like, hey, you guys have multiple 3rd round picks. Do you want to do something where we rearrange some capital? Like, that could be kind of fun. So there's a lot that could happen here. You look at the Cowboys. Hey, you have Tyler Guyton, who should be a right tackle. Do you guys want to move up ahead of Washington and be able to select him? Or even call up Washington and be like, yo, do you want to jump the Patriots? And the answer would be yes to the majority of those. So to me, it's down to, like, the way I would approach this as Las Vegas is I don't want to lose out on Judkins. So I'm worried if I move past the Cowboys, I'm guaranteeing myself that I am going to be reducing my probability of getting a player that I think could be impactful. The thing is, I could be a complete smartass and just go to town and move down one spot and move down again. But I'm actually going to be a little more aggressive with Washington. I think that I've never put myself in this situation because I can do this ideally. I'd be so nice. Like, I'm usually very nice to my Patriots fans. Very nice to them. The Commanders might be a little bit more intriguing. Let's look at the trade options. So from 37 to 40, so it's 500 to 530. That's a 30-point differential. It would only cost about like 150, right? So you got 147. So 147 versus the Patriots, if this is only a 10-point spot, so it'd only be about like a pick 200. Like, would you do 144? Would you do the same value to just jump one spot and maybe get back 214? I kind of like that value, and again, I just feel very comfortable with the idea of being beneficial to the Patriots over the Commanders. I've been so nice to the Patriots, and I'm going to continue being nice to y'all because I love y'all. But we actually might do 180 in return. We'll do 214. We'll do 214. How about that? We'll send 214 in. The Patriots are overpaying for a one-spot jump, and you're going to say, oh my God, we could have gotten Jack Sawyer. You know what? You got Mason Graham to start out. You need a left tackle. And this is by far the best left tackle available. I'm gonna charge a little bit of a demand tax right there. And that is so worth it because, again, I was ready to pull the trigger there with Washington. Washington's all pissed off, and they're like, man, we really wanted to get that. But luckily for Washington, there are some damn good players that are still available, so you'll be okay. You'll survive. But let's look at some teams that might not survive because I might want to move down again with the Raiders. But you do have some really good Ohio State players in here. Do we want to continue just revamping the defensive line? My answer would be no to that. I really do like this receiving class quite a bit. Io Maynor, 73.75 grade. Spoiler alert, he is really awesome. We're going to have a receiver video coming out in the next week or two. Jaden Higgins, I have him graded very highly. I think he'd be a number 1 on this squad. And I honestly think that wide receiver could be poached within the next few spots as well. I think I'm actually going to take this opportunity to get that extra 5th round pick or whatever it is. I think it was a 5th, maybe a 4th round pick, depending on compensatories. And look at Io Maynor and Higgins here. I think Io Maynor is just an absolute savage. I mean, I love them both. I have Higgins higher, but Io Maynor I think is more up Pete's alley in terms of being more of a quality blocker and more of a vertical threat. So I'm going to allow Io Maynor to be the selection there, and we got a free pick out of it, which I think is great. And again, the Patriots, you sacrifice 144, but you also do end up getting a later day 3 pick in return, and you end up getting your left tackle of the future. I have a lot of faith in Ursery. At 39 for the Bears, long-winded way of getting here, we got Josh Simmons in the 1st round to play guard, long-term tackle for us. We could look at the interior of the offensive line. I don't think anybody is worth it outside of maybe the tackles here. Wyatt Milam honestly struggled quite a bit more than I expected. So we have officially hit that spot where I love a Johnny Cornelius. It's just still, we hit that spot where we made the right decision in round 1. All right, we did the right thing. I would have wanted to trade up with the Bears. So looking at the running backs here, because I think it's worth it. I do see some really good options, and I already know y'all are clamoring at me because I do think at 41 or 72 we'll have a good pick. I'm looking at Tyleik Williams right here. Built through the trenches. We don't have somebody who could truly be a dominant number one defensive interior. I mean, that is kind of selling short Gervin Dexter, but we need someone to hang out with him and someone who will combine both pass rush and run defense. And Tyleik Williams has that ceiling as a pass rusher, just has not even remotely come close to it. I don't trust Ohio State to do that. I think it's incredible value at 39. At 40 for the Washington Commanders, we have not done anything, but we ended up picking up at extra pick 93. And I mean, talk about a culture setter. Jack Sawyer, like that is pretty damn solid value. You move back and you still get him. The offensive line's been eviscerated. I still think that corner is something you could target in the third round because I'd want someone more in the slot and someone who's going to be a little bit more feisty. Again, Jahdae Barron, really good zone coverage corner. I don't think he fits with Mikey Sainristil and Marshawn Lattimore. Like, wide receiver, absolutely with Jaden Higgins, Jalen Rolls. Like, those are the next two guys are probably on my list. But I mean, you can't say no to Jack Sawyer at this point. Like, I really do like the value for him. Donovan Ezeraku, like, you know what my thoughts are. Like, Jordan Burch, I love him. But Jack Sawyer is a tone setter, and he works perfectly with Dan Quinn. I mean, talk about a great way to move back. You lost a little bit of value at edge, but you also ended up gaining really good pick value for a very little drop in terms of value there. At 41 for the Bears, would have been nice to get both and ended up getting a full Ohio State trio, but not going to happen this time. We ended up getting Tyleik Williams, which, to be fair, we could have gamed it and went Jack Sawyer, but I do think a team would have traded up, like the Jets, made a small move up for Tyleik, and I did not want to sacrifice that capability. With Dennis Allen as your defensive coordinator, I would see that someone like Jordan Burch as a freak athlete would actually make a lot of sense for this team. Oladejo, Swinson as well, but Swinson to a lesser degree at 250. So I don't think Ezeraku is going to be someone who I think is going to garner a ton of attention. And with these top tier corners on the board, with the Jets lurking right here, I have a couple teams that are wanting to move up. First off, New York. Like at this point, this is perfect for New York to jump ahead of their own in-division rival. But of course, with Amos and Revel still available, and Porter might not feel the need to do it. Same thing with Barron. But again, Barron is just so specific that I just cannot put a team outside of maybe the Falcons as one that would genuinely look at Barron as a legitimate asset, because off zone, I know you guys ran it a notable amount, but you kind of would use him as a Swiss Army knife for multiple positions. And that's awesome, but it's not something for these teams that are sitting here at in New York. So besides that, is there any team looking for a boundary corner? The Bengals, but they're not going to be moving up. You also have top tier safeties available. Already moved up once with the Seahawks. Not going to do that again, even though really good value. Same thing with the Buccaneers. So a lot of these teams that I'd want to move up with, I've already done so. But the Packers could get aggressive here. You wouldn't want to do it if you're the Bears, but I'm saying maybe if you're sitting there and you're the Giants or something and you just didn't feel like your guy fell to you, oof. Man, it kind of does suck. I mean, I could move up right now with the Falcons. The Falcons can jump multiple teams. They need a boundary corner. Honestly, I don't mind that because we traded back twice with the Falcons. Again, we totally recomped our picks. And because of that, we ended up getting our edge in Mike Green in round one. 46 to 41 is going to be 440 to 490, which is a 50 value, which is roughly 122. We got 122. So that's literally a 1-to-1 swap right there. The Falcons have moved up. The Bears have also moved back and recomped their pick value. And you're going to sit here and say, well, I think Darian Porter is going to be the guy who I think mirrors our guy best in AJ Terrell. And he's supposed to have 4.2 speed. So former receiver, great ball skills, a little bit older, but you're also not afraid of age, given the fact that you drafted a quarterback who is old at number, 8 overall? So I don't think age should be a factor here if you really trust the talent. If you don't like it, then you could, of course, try to swap it out with a pick right here, which for the Jets, you got Amos, you got Revel. Again, you could literally reorder all these corners because they all relatively play similar roles, but I think Revel mirrors, again, we're just talking about like what the organization has currently, and it's like how you can build around them is by either filling their weaknesses or by kind of matching their strength. And I think a lot of matching strength is going to be super key with these corners here in round 2. And we got Revel going there and pairing up with Sauce Gardner. And honestly, I love Amos to the Giants. I think this is a great way. The consolation prize, you move back and you still get a top tier corner. Like, that's just kind of a masterclass. We see a run on the top of the corners right there. At number 44 for the Dallas Cowboys, we ended up going Matt Golden in the first round and acquired 2 third-round picks. Now, running back absolutely should be on the radar here. You look at Caleb Johnson, and he's like a true every down back. But I also think that we could hold our horses a little bit. We could try to move back as well with a team that is looking for Jahdae Barron, because I think the flexibility of having him on your team and being able to use him as a chess piece is awesome. I really do. I think it's going to be great to use him as a safety and just kind of use him as that Swiss Army knife. But you need to have a defensive coach that really loves to be able to use guys as Swiss Army knives, right? And like Mike McDonald would be that guy. I'm not going to trade up again, though. So is there anybody who's willing to move up? Ugh. I mean, the Steelers could be like, we could use Jahdae Barron in a multitude of roles. Here in round 2, it might be worth it. And again, I got the hiccups today. There could be a legitimate drop-off. I love Mac McWilliams to death, though. I will be honest. I think he might be better than Jahdae Barron. But Jahdae Barron is, he's a hot commodity. It is tough to say if you're the Cowboys, sticking and picking is just going to be a little bit of a kick to the nuts. But we already got our receiver 1. I could totally see us going after another one if we really wanted to, because I do think that a combination of Higgins, I'm not going to do it, but Higgins, Golden, as well as Lamb would be a ridiculous trio. And instantly you jump from the most pitiful receiving core to a legitimate high-end receiving core. But I mean, at the same time, like, I'm just going to be real. I could totally see Anthony Belton being on this squad. If you look at how Tyler Smith played over at Tulsa, this fits their MO. And this is a true left tackle, by the way, with Belton, to where you could kick Guyton back to right tackle. Or if you want to move Smith back to his true native position at left tackle, where he performed really well, you could do it. So I really like the idea of putting Belton here, which I already know my Cowboys fans are saying, fuck that. But, ooh, you know what? I have an interesting proposal. I'm seeing a team right here in the Buffalo Bills. And what do we do for the Bills in the first? I think we went after an edge rusher, which is perfect. They need a flexible defensive back piece, and they have the capital to go and get it. I was scrolling down. I didn't scroll down far enough. And you know, I want to see how this trade value-wise ends up pairing out. So 44 to 56. So what's the differential there? We got 460 to 340. So that's 120 differential, right? 120. Then we got 284. So that's going to be 164 differential. 164 is going to be pick 85. So 76 is actually a little bit rich, which we might be able to fleece a little bit more out of them, or we could just do 84. And I actually really like that, because for Buffalo, I don't think there's going to be 2 guys here at 56, 62 that are going to be worth it. So, I mean, again, you could end up like doing either of those, and I think it's going to be perfectly reasonable. Like, you could do that plus, like, 211. Not going to move the needle necessarily. So feel free to toss in or out that 211. But Buffalo trading up for Jahdae Barron is incredible. You have Scorden and Barron, 2 of the highest floor players. But for Barron, I just really wanted to see a team that could utilize him in a multitude of ways. And that's like my dream team for him right now. And I just realized that on the spot. So you guys got to see that live. Hopefully that was cool instead of extremely irritating. You do have a skip button for 10 seconds at a time in case you do want to use that. But for the Colts here in round 2, we went Ben Morrison round number 1. And I've seen some bullshit news talking about him potentially slipping to the 3rd round. Like, this is some BS. This dude was a guaranteed top 15 player before he got hurt. And that was like 6 weeks into this year, but all of a sudden, Siobhan Ravel, no way. No way. I'm like, this guy's just as good as he was before. We haven't seen this guy play NFL talent since week 1 of 2023. No disrespect, because I just took him to the Jets, but I'm talking about the lack. We are not putting the same level of scrutiny of I guess say analysis, but basically when we're just talking down players, it's not equal, right? We're using the same or the exact opposite argument for the same situation. In fact, I would say completely different because, like, at least we saw with Morrison, we saw him go up against legit NFL receivers this year and do pretty damn well. So I think that there's it's a little bit ridiculous, but regardless, all will be revealed through the combine. We'll see if he's healthy, but regardless, I think an edge 2 with Ezraku could be really fun here. Obviously a tight end, but I do think that you might want to have a little bit more of a blocking presence. I think Harold Fannon's fantastic, no pun intended, but I also think that people will not believe in him as the blocker that I think he is. Like, Mason Taylor is spotty as a blocker. Arroyo is a wanting blocker, but I do agree that this spot, I should go and opt for Xavier Watts or Nick Emanwari. Now, the thing is, you get Watts, you're right down the street, and you get instant chemistry there with Ben Morrison. And it's my dream draft for the Bengals, but you have to look at chemistry as well. I think Nick Emanwari is a better player, but Xavier Watts paired up with Ben Morrison again. I mean, the only thing is, I really wish we could find a way to flop the Bengals and the Colts. But, again, I want Al Golden to get him back. It is what it is. At 46 for the Chicago Bears, we moved down, and we got Simmons and Tyleik Williams. I think this is a beautiful spot to go after Ezraku as another edge. I know that technically Dennis Allen would want someone with a little bit more size, but I do think that this class doesn't really provide that type of player outside like Landon Jackson in the third. And I think I'd rather take a swing on a running back in the third and take the best value edge rusher here at 46 and hope that Dennis Allen can actually change his ways and take advantage of a great player like that. Arizona Cardinals took Mykel Williams in round number 1. Here in round number 2, I think defensive interior absolutely, with the value of the players who have slipped, should be at the forefront of their mind. Like in round number 3 at 78, you absolutely might be able to snipe a Shamar Turner, a CJ West, but I'm just going to be completely for real. I already know I'm just going to have a little bit of a run of defensive interior, whether it's like in this zone, but well before 78. I just highly doubt the defensive interiors will be available. So this is the time where you need to take it. Rebuild those trenches, and you got Derek Harmon here. Derek Harmon's young. He's athletic. Like, he's just a damn good player. Darius Alexander's older, so I do think that, it's a new factor. He is currently right now at 27, but I might drop him a couple, like maybe a spot or two to where he's going to be sitting around that 40 range because he is going to be, I think, 25 come August. So definitely a concern there. Omar Norman Law, I love him to death. I just don't know if he'll go above Derek Harmon, which, I mean, right now, I think this hasn't been fully updated for what NFL Stock Exchange just did video-wise. So I'm going to say Derek Harmon will be higher because I think he is on Trev's board. And he's also younger. He's 3'10". He's not 295. He's a very well built to be able to play both as a 3-4 end as well as like nose on certain reps. I like the flexibility there in odd fronts. At number 48, we got the Miami Dolphins. Malachi Starks, round 1. Offensive line has to be one of these two picks. We know the deal. And so you got Tate Ratledge here. I'm like, meh. Boring. Almost did it for the, for the Bears? Did I almost do it? Oh, actually for the Cowboys, I almost took Anthony Belton, which Belton could be the pick here. Like, I like Belton a lot, but defensive interior, also kind of a thing where I really like the potential of guys here. And you look at TJ Sanders, he's in the 280s, but Omar Norman Lott, man, God, they love athleticism on this team. And they're willing to take raw players before, like, maybe guys who shouldn't be playing too early. I'm going to trust it. Trust the process. We're going to get guard at 98 because, again, the value here is just not great unless you're going for Belton. And I think Omar Norman Law is just going to be so exciting. I mean, he is just such an exciting player. Sitting there at number 32, but of course, after I drop Darius Alexander, he will be number 31 on my board. At number 49 for the Bengals. Ended up going after Tyler Booker via trade back, which is nice. Ended up addressing the interior. We need to go defense. And I'm going to go and get my center fielder for Al Golden here in Nick Emanwari. We're going to get him his version of Xavier Watts and get himself 6'3", 227, and an absolute ball hawk. Number 50 for the Seahawks would have been a great pick for them as well. You got Jalen Walker via trade up there in the first. Pretty cheap trade up as well. I like that a lot. I honestly think this might be the spot where I'm going to take Anthony Belton or Wyatt Milam. And I'm going to go Anthony Belton for this reason. I think that he needs to continue polishing as a tackle, could work as a tackle year 1, but he's someone who should be playing a guard role as he's continuing to fill out his frame. He's 340 right now. From his agent, he told me that he was 370. That's fucking ridiculous. And so he actually looked pretty solid at right tackle as well. There's unreliable health concerns there with Abe Lucas. And so I really like the potential, what we could have there. We're going to go Anthony Belton to the Seahawks. And he fits that mauler run style, but he actually does a really good job in terms of, he's a lot better than like an Anthony Bradford that you're taking day 3 swings on. 51, Buccaneers. When Jahad Campbell via a small trade up there in the first. I think this is going to be a key spot for us to trade back if possible. You got Jaden Higgins available, and I can see a team like the Steelers salivating, but of course we took one already. So RIP to that prospect. But looking at some teams that are looking for a true number 1, I could see the Packers getting exciting about Jaden Higgins, but they like someone who could be more of a vertical threat. Of course, we have the Commanders here, but we traded back to get more picks. How many picks are we really going to try to move up for? Damn. Not many teams are looking for a wide receiver 1. Of course, I could talk about the Panthers, but I don't want to move up with the Panthers and use their picks either. So Jaden Higgins is available. I think that he should be a priority player. Wyatt Milam is as well, which Wyatt Milam wouldn't be a bad pick for the Buccaneers to be their long-term guard role. Would not do it myself, but it's still, definitely up for discussion. You got Caleb Johnson here, which, maybe some teams are going to be a little bit, trigger happy and try to go after him. You got the solid edge rushers, which again, I think this is outdated. If I'm just going to be completely blunt, it's like very outdated to me. But you got some very top end edge rushers that are still available, which to be fair, for the Buccaneers, we could just stick and pick. Would not be a bad idea at all. But I personally want to move down a little bit. I got Braden Swinson here, which I love Braden Swinson. Y'all know I love Braden Swinson. If I have to stick and pick, I actually might go Braden because I see enough people around me who have top 50 grades on Swinson to the point where I don't feel like it's outlandish. But I'm trying to see if there's anybody that's worth moving up for. You got the tight ends, but I just don't really think that there's going to be a team that's too hard pressed on their tight end situation. I do think the Buccaneers are going to luck out in the situation or lose out on their luck, I should say. And they're going to go after an edge rusher here. I love Jordan Burch, does not fit at all. I'm going to go after my number 6 now. 6 overall player in Braden Swinson. And if you guys want to know why, I make a whole entire video on it. Feel free to check it out. But I mean, he has a true pass rush win rate that is right behind Abdul Carter. And it's above James Pierce, who you guys know I love. It's above your favorite edge rushers in the class outside of Abdul Carter. And then the only one who beat him was Josiah Stewart, who I personally don't understand. Like, on tape, he does not win like that. But regardless, Braden Swinson does. And so you have Jahad Campbell and Braden Swinson, an elite 1-2 duo there. And I love that. 52, Broncos. Moved up for Tyler Warren at the cost of 2/3. And I call that a win. That is a win, baby. I mean, you need that. Colston Loveland ain't shit compared to him. I'm just going to be so honest. Like, he is not remotely close in talent. Safety-wise, I mean, you could try to go after one here. But I think this is either the opportunity to go after Jaden Higgins as like a longer-term replacement there for Cortland Sutton, pony up. Or this is a good spot to move back. And I think this is, again, one of those spots where I'm like, let's see if there's a team that's like willing to move up a notable amount. And I could see the Chiefs, if Travis Kelce decides to bye-bye, to try to do that. I know Gray as well as Wiley, but again, it's Gray and Wiley. Like, they're not studs by any stretch of the imagination. We could try to move back up with the Cowboys before this running back run that could happen right here. And actually, I like that quite a bit. Could have went running back as well for the Broncos, but I want to try out doing that later on. So we're gonna make a deal here with the Cowboys. We're gonna say, like, Dallas, aloha, hello, and damn, that kind of ass low key. Man, that's a sucky. Like, what's the value? So 56, 340. So 340 to 390. That's 50 value. That'd be 122 and higher, which they don't have. Damn, that sucks. That really sucks. Like, pick 100. It would make sense if it was like 120 and they had to pick 100. Cowboys, you are out unless we trade back our future 3, which, I mean, it is what it is, man. Is there any other team looking for a top-end weapon? Ooh, the Texans could be a dark horse player here. because I do see some teams that are looking for a more possession style receiver. Let's look at the Texans as well as the Panthers. Panthers, honestly, a good amount of draft capital. That's not bad. I'd almost accept 109 or 112 for that move up. I think that's actually really solid. Texans don't got shit. We're going to move up with the Panthers because I do think the Texans are a key threat to it. I think the Packers are a key threat to it as well. 58, 52 differential there. We got 320 up to 390, which is 70, and that is roughly 112. Look at that. That's perfect value. We're going to make that trade right there. Carolina's going to move up, and they're selecting their top-end player. They went James Pierce in the first. We're going to go Jaden Higgins here in the second round. A legit number one receiver, top 30 on my board, 58% contested catch rate, reliable hands, literally the focal point of Iowa State's offense. This dude should be a first-round pick, but again, it is what it is. Emeka Egbuka goes to the Steelers there in the first. We lost out on the corner run. I like Max Hairston a lot, but I think this is an opportunity to potentially pivot and look at potential long-term options. But defensive line-wise, like Darius Alexander, I would love him, but we want guys who will be there, like who will still be kind of young and developmental, because at 25 years old, your role is to replace Cam Hayward, right? So Darius Alexander, don't really think that's going to be the best return on investment. Now, Jordan Birch. Oh, I love Jordan Birch. Yeah, I know. Don't clip that. That's something that would probably haunt you in your nightmares. But I absolutely love Jordan Birch. And this is just another spot where I think we need to trade back. Like, the value here is so garbage. But for teams that are looking at running back, like, it should be a priority. Like, this is where I could see a small jump by Dallas. And even though I tried to do it 52, like, I think this is better because the Steelers have pick 121, right? Because I do think, looking at the Cowboys, let's actually reshift the picks. I personally would be happy with 53 to 56, 76, 85, which, again, 9 for a 3-spot jump. But you are jumping the Chargers, who I think is going to be a key taker on this. Let's look at the value really quick. 53 to 56 was that a 30-point jump? 30-point jump, that's going to be worth around, well, if we look at 76 as well, 76 to 10, so 180 differential. 180 differential would be 82. So it makes sense. It makes sense, honestly. You might want to toss in something else like 163 and we get back 188, which I think that actually accounts for it properly. But the Cowboys jump up because you want to get the most bang for your buck, right? And so we're actually going to be going after Quinshon Judkins here, who in my opinion is worth far more than Caleb Johnson. But still, for the Chargers, who like to use their running back as an absolute workhorse, I'm going to go after Caleb Johnson. 55, Green Bay Packers. We went after Shamar Stewart in round 1. Corner would be great here in round 2, but that's just not going to be the case. So I'm going to look at receivers here, and technically Jack Besh feels like a Green Bay Packer. I just don't like him at this spot. Like, Jalen Rawls would be really fun. Jack Besh might have to be the pick. I mean, I don't think he should be a second-round player, but he is a really fun one, very reliable. And honestly, this is going to be more of a Dubs replacement than anything. We'll do it. Jack Besh is going to be, like, he is kind of a Green Bay Packer at heart. At number 56 for the Steelers, again, we went Egbuka, just traded back and reshifted our picks. We moved up in the 3rd round. And, like, honestly, running back with Judkins would have been great at that spot. Come to think of it, honestly, Cam Scatabo might be a good choice at this point. And to be fair, if I'm sitting there in Pittsburgh, I would have went Judkins, but Judkins and a move up in the 3rd, I actually feel pretty happy about Cam Scatabo at this point, which would have been kind of like my dream pick there at 58. I have hiccups again. So I'm actually going to do it. So we lost out on 2 running backs, but honestly, Cam Scatabo would have been my running back above Caleb Johnson, and he's really damn close. Technically, he's above Quinshon Judkins, but I think for the Cowboys, Quinshon fits even better. At 57 for the Houston Texans, took Donovan Jackson round 1, which big need. We're going to go Jalen Rawls here. I know injury scares the shit out of y'all, but he's even playing on it, which is good. I think the value is incredible. I mean, watching him play, this dude is just absolutely lights out. And, he was playing at the Senior Bowl at 80% and still dominating everyone. Sometimes you just got to roll the dice on best player available. Denver Broncos went Tyler Warren in round number 1. Here in round number 2, I think that safety is absolutely still on the board. Again, we are in that range where it's like, I don't know about Kevin Winston at this point. So I'm actually going to look, at potentially a receiver, which again, we kind of just missed out on those as well. We fucked ourselves over here, everyone. We did. But he says he wants to stick in the middle of the field. I do think running back could go here as well. And honestly, Trey Henderson, not bad at this point. Again, we missed out on all those running backs, so it looks stupid in retrospect. But when you end up looking at the role that Trey Henderson's going to play, because I actually have a vision for this team as well. Ooh, Trevor Etienne too. There needs to be some sort of Carson. There's so many good players, guys. This is a really, really good class. Like, don't get me wrong. This is a good class. And you know what? I'm making one more move. I am. Because I think that a top-tier edge rusher is going to be super key for the Lions. And the Ravens are going to take it if they don't make a small move up here. And it's a super short-range trade. Super short. You got 58 to 60. 20-point differential. That's going to be a pick 178. Which, honestly, if I'm the Broncos, I mean, we can go, like... It doesn't look great, does it? Damn, Lions. We'll go 195 in a future 7. I'd be happy with that because I'm not going to lose out on anything to the Ravens. And so I move back, and Jordan Burch is going to be my dream selection there for the Lions. I think he's such a phenomenal edge rusher. So at 59 for the Ravens, when Josh Connerly honestly would have been my pick with Jordan Burch, hence why I ended up being so aggressive. I think edge rusher absolutely still should be on the mind. And I'm going to go after a player who I think is extremely solid and needs a lot of retooling. To be fair, they haven't done a good job at this. I'm going to save everybody by not doing that. I am going to go after, actually, Alfred Collins or TJ Sanders. I'm going to go TJ Sanders here and actually have him play like a Calais Campbell role where he's like that 290, 300 range. Hopefully have him raise up a little bit of weight, but penetrating defensive interior, rebuild through the offensive and defensive lines at 60 for Denver. Again, was looking at options for us to go after at this point. Honestly, Savion Williams after the catch, this offense does really care about it. We went Tyler Warren. We're going to go after Savion Williams at this point as well. At 61, we got the Commanders. Let's speed this up a little bit. Went Jack Sawyer in the second round via trade back. Here at 61, wide receiver would have been kind of good to have. And to be fair, I think Restrepo's damn solid. I want to start pushing him up boards as well. So we're going to go Xavier Restrepo at 61, the reliable weapon out of Miami. Dallas Cowboys at 62, Matt Golden, Quinshon Judkins. I still think defensive interior could be focused on at the moment, and I could give a massive middle finger to Philly, but I do think that you'd want to go after someone who's a little bit more reliable than just like Darius had a phenomenal year, but someone who might be a little bit younger. And I think Alfred's not too young though. Alfred was the guy who I was going to take, but going to be honest. That did not look too pretty. I'm going to look at offensive line, and I could go Wyatt Milam here to be that player who plays the guard role. I don't want Brock Hoffman being the long-term guard option. That's not a bad idea, even though I really was hoping to see Anthony Belton be the long-term option there. Cam Williams is just not ready to be in the NFL. Like, he's just not good. But to be fair, Jonas Savania also has that flexibility. Marcus Bowe does as well. Whenever I hear the word flexibility now, it kind of turns me off, though. And I feel like you guys are the same. We could go for a tight end here because we have some great options, or we could even trade down because with the tight end options, are there teams that are going to be tight end aggressive? Because the Eagles, I think, should be a team that's at least looking for it. But, I mean, you technically could also look right now at the Patriots. The Patriots ended up making a small move up, but I think we fucking eviscerated the Patriots in terms of their draft capital. That's actually not bad. That's not bad at all. Honestly, I like this because we're actually going to recomp their pick. So we're going to go 67 to 62, and we're giving up 104. We're getting 150 and 170 back. Maybe 172. How about that? 175. But that way we can end up recomping their picks here. And we've already gone after defensive interior and tackle. I think getting a key weapon is super duper important right now. And when you can end up moving up, because I've heard you guys are bringing in, I believe, Harold Fannin for an interview or an extended one, I think it's going to be super duper important. And it's super key for Drake May to have a reliable weapon. And Harold Fannin's so worth it there at 62. And you get more picks. 63 for the Chiefs. Ended up going after KG, round number 1. Could be focusing on the offensive line here, developing Cam Williams, but you guys can't do that as it is. And that by that, I mean develop tackles. So I'm going to look at Wyatt Milam as a guard. Granted, you guys could probably wait till day 2 or like later day 2. But honestly, I like the idea of going Wyatt Milam here and just plugging in that guard role for the long run. At 64 for the Philadelphia Eagles, you guys ended up getting Myles Garrett in round 1. I kind of forgot about that. And so looking at the options here, Darius Alexander would be kind of ridiculous. Pair him back up there with his former Toledo teammate in Quinn Mitchell and also replace the BG role. But I also do think Myles Garrett kind of eliminates the need for that. I do think that you look at Isaiah Rodgers' role, and he could end up being brought back. But you look at Hairston, and then you also end up taking a peek at, well, McWilliams is going to be more zone specific, but where's my boy, Jalen Smith, who is, top 15 on my board. I love him to death. Okay, long story short, I was thinking about the best options for the Eagles here. Decided to cut it out of the video. But we have like Jonas Savania, Cameron Williams here. The question is, do I trust any of them to develop into the left tackle of the future? Or the right tackle of the future, I should say. No. Not at pick 64. I'm still scared shitless of Cam Williams. I think that he is very, very, very risky. But he has a lot of really good return on investment. But the thing that I do think that the Eagles could be able to nag out of this, because we did get that Myles Garrett trade in, is a tight end. And I'm looking at the options here, and I think Elijah Arroyo is perfect because he is a tenacious blocker. Maybe he's not the best blocker on planet Earth, but he's over 250 pounds, and he is an absolute vertical threat. And I love the idea of allowing him to grow underneath Dallas Goedert, who already has injury questions. And I know that you can talk about Grant Calcaterra as already that receiving tight end, and God bless him for catching that onside kick in the Super Bowl. It didn't change anything, but still, I still think that Elijah Arroyo would be an increased blocker as well as pass catcher. And at 64, you might as well run that in. At 65 for the New York Giants, we traded back and got we did not trade back and get Cam Hayward. We got Cam Hayward and then traded back and got Trey Amos. 2 really good players nonetheless. Again, we could end up talking about offensive line here, and this is where I might be comfortable allowing Jonas Savania to play any spot on the offensive line and seeing, where that ends up working out. But regardless, I do think you could look actually at some defensive interior value here with Darius Alexander. I'd really like that, but I mean, realistically, I'm looking at another weapon here and somebody who can play on the boundary. And I'm looking at Isaiah Bond, and I just think that would overlap a little too much with what you guys already have going on the boundary there. With, why am I forgetting Jalen Hyatt's name? Hello. And so I will say that this is one of the few teams where it's like my next targets are going to be LeJontay Wester, who I absolutely adore, and Ricky White. Like, those are probably my next 2 with Isaiah Bond, Tez Johnson in the mix. But it's like, it is kind of a little bit of a tough spot. I mean, to be fair, actually, I love Ja'Cory Brooks. Ja'Cory Brooks is a baller, and he's 6'3", 190. So I don't know why necessarily Trev is so against Ja'Cory Brooks. You look at 10-3 drop rate, and you're like, that's not good. But we're perfectly fine ignoring that for some other players. Ja'Cory Brooks has been absolutely phenomenal, and I'm going to stand by him. I think he's worth a top 65 pick in the draft. I'm going to stand by my number 51 player in the class. He flourished at Louisville. We all knew he had it. Excuse me again. He ended up having some stumbling years there at Alabama. Ended up breaking out a little bit. And then ended up, what the hell? There we go. So yeah, he ended up having a solid year in 2022. Ended up just not playing in 2023. I think there was some injury involved there. But this year ended up bursting out onto the scene and doing a fantastic job. And when I watched him play, he went up against top-end corners like Ben Morrison and ended up performing very, very well. A very underrated player that I don't think is getting enough respect at all. Kansas City at 66 got Kenneth Grant and Wyatt Milam. Good place to be. Defensive interior and interior offensive line. Again, you can end up trying to develop one of these guys, but I just don't think it's worth your time. Go to free agency and develop them. It's just, sometimes you just got to call a spade, man. You got to call it quits. But this team, not going to lie, you could use a little bit more speed if you wanted to. I'm looking at Isaiah Bond here, and I'm like, injuries aside, this is a first-round player, and he is still very good. I'm going to take it. Speed, and mother-freaking speed, baby. I know Trey Henderson's there too. I always go it, but let's change some things up a little bit. Cowboys went Quinshon Judkins, as well as Matt Golden. Oh, I can't do it. There's no way the Cowboys would draft 2 running backs there. Oh, that's just so cool. Oh, that's gonna kick me in the balls, man. Oh, God, I would want that to happen so badly. I'm actually gonna look at Cam Williams here. I think the return on investment at this point, because we have another pick, is gonna be, it's starting to get where it's worth it, right? You got Jack Nelson, who I like a lot, Johnny Cornelius, who I actually like quite a bit, but Johnny is going to be more of an interior offensive lineman to me. Emory Jones would be really fun with that next pick. But again, there's a lot of teams in this range that I feel would be looking at those value brand offensive linemen. And so I'm going to go after Jonah Savania here as somebody who has some really solid foundational footwork, should be playing guard in the short run, but is a great swing tackle, has played both left and right, and doesn't necessarily have the inexperience that Cam Williams does. So we're going to go Jonah Savania there to be a flexible offensive line piece to play at guard, tackle, center, wherever you really feel like he should fit, and allow him to polish up with the great mentorship that is there right now. 68, Vegas Raiders, Will Johnson, Elikai Omaner, run this. Ooh, hold up. I want to see if there's any threats. I'm going to run the card into the podium right now for Trey Henderson. I was seeing if there's going to be a threat at QB, which there is not. We're going to go Travion Henderson there at 68 and pair him back up with Chip Kelly. Ended up getting 2 superstar weapons as well as a great defensive piece. The Patriots ended up, I believe, trading up twice and got Harold Fannin and Ariante Ursery. And at this spot, so like Ursery, Graham, Fannin, talk about a great group. Looking at Umar Mielen, I love that here as well. But I just feel like we should try to move back at this point. And like looking at what the Jaguars have done, they've gone after corner and wide receiver, like seeing if there's anybody who's going to be lurking for Max Hairston here. Technically, the Raiders would have been a team that could be lurking for Hairston on top of everything, but you also look at a team that's losing a Debo, also having, why am I forgetting names all of a sudden? Slot corner Alontae Taylor coming off a pretty mediocre year. We could also talk about the Panthers, but again, the Panthers already made 1 trade up before. The Niners aren't a bad team to draft Max Hairston at this point and be able to get really solid value. The Niners moved up in the most recent round, and they ended up selecting an offensive tackle in Armand Membu. So you went defensive interior, tackle, and then now you can start getting a little bit sexy with it. And to be fair, not many more positions I love for the Niners more than like maybe edge and corner. And a boundary corner like Hairston would be really nice to add in with Renardo Green. So I know you're losing one of your top options, but you also could just move up for edge. And honestly, I like that. For the Patriots, I like having that flexibility of moving back. For the Niners, you have so many like quality picks that I think this is a prime opportunity to be able, with that 6-spot jump, go 149. Seriously? Damn. This sim is actually like really undervaluing picks. I was actually going to send back like 219 or 214 in return with San Francisco, basically allowing them to, yeah, you're moving up like what, 6 spots, and then you're moving back 60. I feel like you should get something back for that. But for the Patriots, it's a great way of being able to add another pick into this range. So I like that for San Francisco, moving up and actually on top of Walter Nolan, Armand Membu getting his teammate in Princely Uman Mielen. So we're going to go with that right there. At number 70 for the Jaguars, ended up going Teteroa and Azarie Thomas. Now at this spot, I actually am looking at Tate Ratledge as a good defensive or a good interior offensive lineman, but I'm actually looking at Marcus Bowe, friend of the show as well, came on here not too long ago as a great choice. But on top of that, the player who I actually want to draft here is Emory Jones, who I think would be a great addition there at 71 as well. We're going to go Emory Jones for the highest ceiling that he provides as a guard with that tackle potential. New Orleans Saints, Dwayne Ashton-Jeanty and Colston Loveland. Great spot to be in. I mean, you just addressed two of your biggest issues. And now we can look at edge, and you got Landon Jackson, Kyle Kennard. I mean, like, APR, Oladejo. Like, you have so many great options here, and I love that. But on top of it, you have Darius Alexander, but he is a little too old for me to want to take at this spot. Well, not necessarily, but for this organization, I would want him not being 25 as a rookie. But you think about it, who cares if, like, at this point, you want to just get good players? Darius Alexander is going to be worth it. And he has a good amount of track record and really took off this year. He really did. I'm going to find it to be worth it. You know what? Jeanty, Loveland, and we're going to go after Darius Alexander there at 71. The Chicago Bears at 72. Simmons, Williams, Ezeraku. Talk about a dynamic trio, baby. I love the idea of potentially getting a running back here as well. And that running back I'm looking at is Trevor Etienne. He did a phenomenal job in Mobile. Like, and I mean a phenomenal job. The problem is I don't see any other teams really desperate for a running back like him at the moment. So we could try to trade back again. And I'm looking at Cam Williams here, and it's like, we got Josh Simmons, but do we want Cam Williams? Like, do we want to potentially, like, test out the idea of developing another offensive tackle? It's certainly possible, but I also would love to see a team like the Commanders, or we can look at the Cardinals as teams that also want to have that right tackle of the future. So I actually like the idea of potentially trading with those teams. What will it cost, or what do they have to offer? The Cardinals, it's not looking pretty. And like pick-wise, that's not looking pretty. It's looking a little bit better for the Commanders based on their situation, right? So I don't think we're going to be able to go 79 and 93 for 72, 122. I think that value is just way too far apart. But, I mean, technically speaking, for the Commanders to move up for Cam Williams, which Commanders have already gone after Restrepo. They went after Jack Sawyer as well. Like, they've done a good job. Sawyer and Restrepo are a solid foundation. But to move up, I mean, to be fair, to move up that far, we'll take a quick peek. I know it's been a little bit irritating having to do this all the time. 195 and 93 is 128. We'll just call that a simple even, what is that? 190 plus 120, 310. So let's just say 320, right? So 320, and then you end up moving up to, what is that? 230. So 110, right? What's 110? 110 is going to be worth like 97. So it's not worth it. Not worth it for the Commanders to spend that capital, but I would maybe send 147 in and maybe get 192 in return. Like, it's not looking good. It's not looking good. Bottom line, I think for the Bears, you just kind of might have to call it quits at this point in terms of trying to trade back. Hairston is available. To be fair, I think that Hairston fits the Panthers perfectly. And I actually mean perfectly. To the point where I'm going to have a couple teams. The Steelers also should be trying to trade up here. If the Steelers didn't get their corner, we're making a deal with the Steelers. Steelers are moving up. 72 to 76. So again, that is going to be 230 down to 210. That's a 20-point differential, which is about pick 180. We're going to go pick 188 in this equation here. We could go 121 and just get 148 in return. Actually, I kind of like that. We're going to do that deal because I don't want to lose the quantity of picks for the Steelers. So we're going to go with that one right there. The Steelers have moved up multiple spots to select a Max Hairston on top of Emeka Buka and Cam Scadabo. I think his physicality, when healthy, has been phenomenal. At 73 for the Las Vegas Raiders, we went after a lot of positions here. Will Johnson, Eli Maynard, Trey Henderson. This is the vision. Will Howard at 73. Got our quarterback. running back, wide receiver, and defensive back number 1. 74 for the Carolina Panthers. You went James Pierce and traded up for Jaden Higgins. Corner would have been probably the next position I went after, but I do think we have some really good defensive interiors on the board. We already got our edge, and you can go after Alfred Collins at this point. Aeneas Peebles. It really depends on the defensive interior style that you want. Jamari Caldwell also deserves to be in this equation, but I'm actually going to go after old but gold, very solid floor, Alfred Collins out of Texas. At number 75, we have the Patriots and Mason Graham, Ursary, Fannin. Talk about some great players, and we're going to go after edge rusher here. And you got Kyle Kennard. Call it in, call it a day. At number 76 for the Bears, Simmons, Tyleik Williams, Donovan Ezeraku. We did a good job trading down and being able to get the most of the value out of everybody. I'm looking at Jared Wilson here and getting solid value at center. I could see the ceiling up for him, and I'm going to take the shot and see how it ends up playing out. Top center of the class, pure center of the class, I should say. 77 for the Browns, Hunter, Banks, Tumalau. Great spot to be in. Great spot to be in. So, like, Hunter, probably going to be filling in for Denzel Ward midseason. Banks, top tier left tackle. Tumalau, top end edge. Like, right now, we filled in those positions of need. At this point, I honestly am looking. Oh, we also ended up, we ended up trading for Joe Milton as well. So we got our quarterback of the future, which is great. But on top of that, we could look at some edge rushing talent here. I actually have a very exciting pick for 81 that I'm excited to pull off because I've been underrating this player for a while. We could go after another edge here as well. You look at Josiah Stewart, used to playing in the cold. Honestly, I like him a lot. Landon Jackson's great value at this point. But I also do believe that running back should be a focus at this point. And we're going to go back to Georgia and go after Trevor Etienne to lead the offense and have a great way forward. And number 78 for the Arizona Cardinals, Michael Williams, Derek Harmon. We are going after Cam Williams to develop him to be an offensive tackle for us for the future. Of course, gutting him away from the Washington Commanders, but that is okay. Again, Sawyer, Restrepo, good place to be in. We're going to look potentially at another wide receiver here. Not loving it. Ricky White, I do love a lot, but I'm actually going to go after one of my favorite players who I actually saw you talking to at the Senior Bowl, and Jalen Smith, because he is a slot versatile defensive back, and that's what I love the most about him. But this dude's an absolute beast. He thrived on the boundary. I mean, he is literally a top 15 player for me in the draft, but you guys literally were talking to him. I think he fits very similar to Mikey Seymour still, but I think he might be even better day one. So, hot take. He's a player I love. This is the range he'll go. At number 80 for the Colts, you got Watson Morrison. I love it. I love it. And at this point, you might as well go after Landon Jackson, who has that flexibility, can move around. Ooh, hold up. With a will linebacker situation, Chris Paul's kind of nice. But I was going to be very cute with that next pick. We could just go Jack Kaiser at this point. I mean, this dude's been great. He was like I got hiccups again. I got 228 at the Senior Bowl. This dude's so damn good. He's a top. I mean, he literally is sitting at number 38 on my board. We're going to go Jack Kaiser and literally be the biggest dicks of all time to Al Golden. I mean, look at that. He ended up missing out on Ben Morrison. He ended up missing out on Xavier Watts and Jack Kaiser right as Jermaine Pratt requests a trade. Oh, I had to. I mean, like, you got to go that route because all those players are great value at that spot to where I'm just super happy to pull it off. But even Worry and Booker have been selected. I actually love the idea of Landon Jackson at this point. Great value for him. Like, just solid edge. I think that he overcomplicates the game, but he's just a damn good player. At 82 for the Seahawks, Jalen Walker to be a linebacker hybrid with edge, and Anthony Belton to be a guard long-term tackle. God, he's so good. At this point, I think going after a potential top-end safety might be the route that I would go. We addressed offensive line and such, and I love the idea of Winston on this team. Super young. You're buying low with a player who absolutely will end up being much better than like the few snaps he played this year. Like, I think that's just the best way to go. You could talk about tight end here. I mean, you can look at Mason Taylor and be a very intriguing prospect, but I mean, you got Carson Schwezinger as well, who's very athletic, but I really like the idea of going after a young, flexible safety, and again, buying low and being able to get a player for great value there. Tampa Bay, Jahad Campbell, Braden Swinson. Do we just like fully load up on the linebacker position with Carson Schwarzenegger? That would be insane. But cornerback, I'm actually going to go back to it and looking at the guys available. I think Noel Williams fits this team to a T. Aggressive, athletic, press. Like he's great. And again, he's 6'1", 200 pounds. I think he has a lot of stuff to clean up, but he's going to be someone who's taken a little bit higher than maybe he should based on the potential. The Bills, you got Nick Scorton, Jahdae Barron. I mean, I call that an absolute win right there. Like, Jahdae Barron, like, you guys ended up just sniping dudes. Sniping. And, like, you guys are in a great spot right now because even at defensive interior, you can get, like, Deion Walker if you wanted to, Josh Farmer, Aeneas Peebles, Shamar Turner. Like, I'm feeling really good about that move in retrospect. But wide receiver as well. Like, I'm actually still a huge fan of Ricky White. Like, Ricky White also as a special teamer is just ridiculously good. And, he might have some issues with some hands and stuff, but his quarterback was ass. I'm just going to be honest. Malik Williams, no disrespect to that dude as a person, but as a professional, like, I have not seen dudes be dropping balls like that. Like, where's he at on my board right now? Ricky White, he's a 72.5, so actually I forgot to reshuffle the board. He will actually end up being right about here at that 90 spot. So he's a boundary receiver worth about the 90 spot. I'm going to pull the trigger. I mean, we drafted really great players, and Ricky White has 4 punt blocks on the year. I mean, he's a great special teamer. At 85 for the Dallas Cowboys, Golden, Judkins, Savania. We need to look at the defense as well. And at this point, Josh Farmer with the gap penetration skills, but Aeneas Peebles is so good, guys. I don't understand why people don't love Aeneas Peebles more. He's a little bit undersized. Whoop-de-doo. He gets great leverage and great power. He fucking dominated in Mobile. I'm taking the shot on him here at 85. 86, we got the Chargers and Will Campbell, Caleb Johnson. Do we just go the holy offensive trinity? I know we need to get some defensive help in here, but I'm pulling it. We're going to go Josiah Stewart. That sounded like I was pulling out, but which we do. No kids. Like, don't do it too early, everybody. It's an irreversible decision. I have not. So, like, God willing. But Josiah Stewart fits perfectly into Mentor's defense. Obviously, he was formerly coached by Mentor. And it's a good guy to develop as well. At number 87, we got the Green Bay Packers, Shamar Stewart, Jack Besh. Kind of a Packers thing to do. So, center's possible, but I do think you could put Jenkins there if you want to put Morgan to the guard spot. Already got that receiver spot. We do need to look at corner. And Mello Dotson's not a bad value here, but I'm looking at Quincy Riley, baby. He's a little bit on the smaller side, but he dominated in Mobile. I love him to death. Got to meet his uncle. Shout out to Marlon. And, great dude. Ended up absolutely lighting it up. Someone who I still have very high on my board, as in, where the hell is he? Like, very high on my board, as in, I have no idea where he is. He's somewhere in here. You guys can see it probably, and I can't. So Quincy's in here somewhere. Oh, he's at 55. Oh, man. But he ended up doing a great job this past, he was playing injured this past year. So given that, he did a great job. Jacksonville, Emory Jones, guard. Azaria Thomas, corner. Tetra McMillan, wide receiver. Great spot to be in. I'm going to actually go back to Florida State. We're going to go Josh Farmer to be a gap-penetrating defensive interior along with Mason Smith. At number 89 for the Texans, Donovan Jackson, Jalen Rawls. You guys do a great job maximizing the defensive interior talent. I'm going to go after another interior offensive lineman here. You got Donovan Jackson for the long run. It's not just one guy that you need. You're going to go after Tate Ratledge as well. Number 90 for the Rams, we've gotten Luther Burden. And right now I'm looking at Carson Schwarzenegger and keeping him in the city. I'm calling that all day. We're going to go Carson Schwarzenegger here. 91, Baltimore Ravens. We ended up going Josh Connolly, TJ Sanders. That's a great spot to be, by the way. And so at this point, I could look at wide receiver Trey Harris as someone who could be a really big asset. He's a fun athlete, just can't really remain healthy. And he did dominate. So let's get Lamar some more help. Why not? Trey Harris it is. 92 for the Jets. Shedeur Sanders, Siobhan Revel. Those are two very key positions to target. Let's look at defensive interior really quickly. And CJ West would probably be my next one. Jamari Caldwell could be an absolute savage, though. But you are losing all your safeties as well with the great options on the board. I'm going to go after Lathan Ransom to be a top end defensive back. 93, Commanders, Sawyer, Restrepo, Smith. I mean, really good dudes, really good guys. And so we could look at some tackles here. And honestly, like, you can look at Bo, love it. Jack Nelson, I think, is super underrated. Probably won't go here on day 2, though. So it's on who I might still take. But we could try to get some extra defensive back depth. Let's look at the edge rushers as well to get another guy. Jared Ivey, he's a weird tweener for me. But I'm actually in love with Femi Oladejo. I don't think he goes any lower. He does not slip out of day 2, but this dude turned it on this year, and he's the best run defender in the class at edge. So you get Jack Sawyer and Femi Oladejo. I'm going to call that all day. 94 for the Minnesota Vikings with Mari and Hampton. Let's get some interior offensive line help if possible. And we got Marcus Bowe to play guard for us. Call that in, baby. 95 Kansas City Chiefs, Kenneth Grant, Wyatt Milam, Isaiah Bond. And you got Dylan Sampson here as a home run hitter. I think that's a great pickup. RJ Harvey, super fun as well. Brashard Smith, though, I mean, SMU has strong ties to the family, the Hunts, because their kid literally goes to SMU. So, you know what? I love Brashard Smith. I'm going to take him here. He can't perform in cold weather either. At number 96, we have the Cleveland Browns. And Travis Hunter, Kelvin Banks, JT Tuimoloau, Trevor Etienne, all difference makers. Like that's just a great group of dudes. And so you could look at Mason Taylor here. I think that wouldn't be a bad idea. But you, on top of that, look maybe for some quarterback competition. Like you could go. Honestly, it's not a bad idea. But wide receiver, I think, is a position that's a very underrated need for him. Just don't know if the value's necessarily here. Love Tez Johnson. Again, it's just the size that's a little bit scary. You could try to develop Jack Nelson here and have him and Kelvin Banks on the squad. It's a good spot to be in. Like, you guys are at the point where I'm not seeing like legitimate issues to solve. And that is like a very healthy spot to be. So edge rusher, again, you got Kyman Rucker here, who is a great player. And I mean a great player. He just has been dealing with some injuries as well. I'm actually going to take Kyman Rucker here. Pair him up with JT Tuimoloau. I like that. 270 pounds pretty much each. And then we got the Vikings back on the board. Looking at a defensive interior with Deon Walker at this point, you need to take advantage of that. You need to take advantage of the rawness of that player and send him to Flores. At 98 for the Miami Dolphins, Starks, Lott. You better know that we're going to look at offensive line at the very minimum here. And I'm actually going to take a Johnny Cornelius to play guard. He's a top 64 player on my board. Literally sitting there. Oh, is he not top 64 anymore? Where the hell did he go? Man, where'd he go? He's 72 now. I ended up liking more players. He's number 72 on my board. But great guard with right tackle versatility. The Niners, whew, damn, trenches, baby. Woof, I did not realize I ended up going that heavy in the trenches. Looking at some guys who need to go in here. Jackson Dart will probably be pick number 100, so FYI. Let's see. Do we need to go after... I want Sebastian Castro to go. This dude has like 10-inch hands. The dude's a savage. So many good players in this class, and I'm so happy to see it. But to be fair, with Greenlaw going, I got to be honest, Jeffrey Boss is right up my alley. Former safety as well. The dude ran at the speed of 21 miles per hour. He popped off to me like over a year ago, so I'm excited to give him that love. And then the Rams, Burden, Schwezinger, call it a day with Jackson Dart at 100. Call it unrealistic. I think that's a bunch of agent talk trying to get these quarterbacks to go higher and higher. It is what it is, but that is going to be the video. Thank you so much for watching. I love you. See you on the far side. Peace.